郑州西四环。
就是地铁12号线平安大道和龙子湖西路交叉口这个作业面出现重大事故，下边塌方，吊车都掉到坑里去了，看见吗？真的是抢救了场面。
The flooding in Zhengzhou is history, and the post-flood cleanup and recovery work has begun. The disaster caused many deaths and massive property damage. The Chinese Communist Party media reported on August 2nd that since July the 16th, more than 14 million people affected by the disaster in Henan Province, which includes 150 counties and 1663 towns. 305 people died, 50 people missing. Many people wondered what the cause of the flooding was. Is it a natural disaster or a man-made disaster? Is there any way to prevent such disasters from reoccurring? The city's waterlogging problem must be the first issue reflected by the Zhengzhou flood. Zhengzhou government has invested 8.25 billion USD in the past 5 years to address the urban waterlogging problem. In 2016, Zhengzhou was selected as a provincial pilot site for the development of Sponge City in Henan Province. This so-called the Sponge City refers to a city has the same properties as a sponge, with good resilience in adapting to environmental changes and dealing with natural disasters, and has good ability of absorbing, storing, infiltrating, and purifying water when it rains, and then releasing and using the stored water when needed. Zhengzhou has invested a lot of human and financial resources in developing the Sponge City. According to Zhengzhou Evening News on May 29th, since 2016, Zhengzhou has completed 5,162 kilometers of drainage network and the 50% utilization rate of recycled water. After implementing the Sponge City development, Zhengzhou has eliminated 125 flood-prone sites in the city, with a 77% elimination rate. Last year, the amount of recycled water reached 380 million tons, with a utilization rate of 50%. The director of Zhengzhou Urban and Rural Construction Bureau introduced that the city waterlogging issue has been alleviated and the ecological environment has been effectively improved. So, how well did the Sponge City that Zhengzhou invested more than 8 billion USD played a role during Zhengzhou flooding? According to Radio Free Asia, an environmental expert, Uli Hong, made his comment on the Henan flood, mentioning that Zhengzhou has completed its Sponge City project, which should have the ability of absorbing the rain and recycled after. But in fact, the project failed to prevent Zhengzhou from the flood, and all those efforts turned out to be meaningless after the disaster. Uli Hong believes that the Sponge City is a lie. The failure of the project illustrates that China's Sponge City projects do not have any flood control capability. It is just an official propaganda, a Tofu Dreg project. On July 30th, the James Owen Foundation, a U.S. think tank, published a report saying that this historic flood has exposed China's infrastructure problems. According to the report, the widespread devastation caused by this year's flood in China has revealed major problems in local warning systems and flood prevention measures, and also has raised concern about the sustainability of old hydraulic projects and new urban infrastructure that were originally designed to withstand the once-in-a-millennium flooding events. However, expensive technical solutions alone are not sufficient to solve flooding and other development problems. They must be coordinated with a strong early warning and emergency response system. Unfortunately, these systems are hindered by China's restricted information control and centralization of authority. The report also mentioned that the Communist Party's propaganda department keeps emphasizing the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, particularly Xi Jinping, in coordinating flood relief operation, which has become a familiar template for CCP's disaster relief propaganda. One expert concludes that in Zhengzhou, Sponge City project cannot adequately address the city waterlogging problem without a unified urban management and emergency alert system. Not only do underground space fail to absorb excess water, but they are one of the biggest sources of injury and property damage. Some people stated that the recent rainstorm was a big test for the sponge city of Zhengzhou, which proved that the city drainage system was useless. Some other people also questioned that although the sponge city is an invisible underground project, there should be specific data on how much rainfall it can handle. Where did the government spend those 8.25 billion USD? Was the money really spent on the drainage system, or was it embezzled by corrupt officials? Moreover, the Zhengzhou flood also revealed some other engineering quality problems. This is the Zhengzhou Railway Station, outside the Daguan International Trade Center building. A part of the road surface has collapsed. Water filled up underneath the station because it was hollow beneath the station. Flower bed had sunk more than 1 meter deep. The underground part of the train station was soaked by water. The basement was supported by only a few steel bars. There are many large potholes around the collapsed area. This trade center building was a new build, and the east road surface was covered by a thin layer of tar. On July 20th, at the construction site of Zhengzhou Metro Line 12, due to the water pipe burst, huge amounts of water overwhelmed the station pit, which was under construction, and caused it collapsed. Witnessed rainwater ingress made the crane fall into the pit. From the footage and pictures of Zhengzhou road subsidence taken by the media, it can be seen that all the soil in the middle of the foundation was washed away by the rain, while above the floating soil there is only a thin layer of cement gravel without any reinforcement bars. Some people said even if the contractors cut corners 10 times, as long as they follow the normal procedure to lay the foundation, the tree along the sidewalk will not grow directly to the ground. He also said that those new concepts of smart city and sponge city only sound fancy but useless. In 2011, Zhengzhou City invested more than 30 million yuan in Xiayi Bridge. In only 49 days, the project was completed and open to traffic. However, 26 of total 80 stone decorations have fell off in less than 2 years because all of them were glued onto the bridge. The engineer in charge even said that the glue used is not a regular one. Some netizens sarcastically commented that, surprisingly, it is the glue industry which led to the rapid development of the Tofu Dreg project. The Tofu Dreg's project problem is not a problem specific to Zhengzhou and Henan Province, but a widespread problem throughout China. On July 29, 2021, a car fell into a sinkhole after the road collapsed on Newjiang Street in Shenyang, Liaoning. China's worst Tofu Dreg projects each cost a lot of money. In the afternoon of May 8, 2021, a bridge nearing completion on the Hangzhou-Shaoxing-Taizhou Expressway in Shaoxing, Zhejiang Province, collapsed and its bridge surface fell into the river, burying crane on the site. This project cost 36.84 billion yuan and was the largest infrastructure project in Shaoxing. In 2012, not even a year after it was opened to traffic, Yangmingtan Bridge collapsed in Harbin, Heilongjiang, causing serious death and injuries. The bridge cost 1.9 billion yuan. Before the tragedy occurred, the contractor was applying for Luban Award, the highest award in China's construction industry. In August 2012, Gansu 8.7 billion yuan highway has road subsidence with one hole every 10 meters. Officials blame the heavy rainfall. In June 2007, the Zhengzhou Bridge in Guangdong was hit by a cargo ship. The bridge collapsed, but the ship was intact. On the second day after the incident, the bridge was declared to be unacceptable quality by experts. In the end, no senior officials were accused, but the captain was sentenced to 6 years in prison. The bridge was 1682 meters long and cost hundreds of millions of Chinese yuan. A prototype bridge broke into Tofu Dregs. In August 2007, the most tragic accident was the sudden collapse of the completed Tuojiang Bridge in Phoenix, Henan Province, killing 64 people. Before the accident, a tour guide proudly introduced the bridge that the bridge is one of the most famous buildings in western Hunan, which will be open to traffic in 2 months. After the tourist visited the bridge and left at night, the bridge collapsed and disappeared. Hundreds of workers were buried under the debris. The bridge was constructed by Hunan Road and Bridge Group Company, which has been nicknamed the Collapsing Bridge Company because many bridges built by them failed years later after their completion, such as the Xixing Bridge over the Qiantang River in Zhejiang, and the Zhujiang Bridge in Guangdong, and the Taiping Lake Bridge in Huangshan, Anhui. However, ironically, those incidents have not stopped the company from winning a series of national awards and certifications. China's real estate industry is one of the world's largest industry, and most of the Chinese people invest their savings in real estate. But the quality of Chinese building has always been a concern for buyers and residents. The original of the Tofu Dreg project video was reposted by a netizen in China, and it has been completely deleted in China. From May 18th to 20th, 2021, the 71-story Shenzhen Sage building has been shaking for 3 days. People working inside the building ran away from the building when it started to shake. There was no earthquake in Shenzhen on that day, and the wind speed was only about level 3 or 4 at the time of the incident. Sage Building once achieved a Shenzhen speed record of building a floor every 2.7 days, and later became a landmark building in Shenzhen. The excessive speed of the construction made people question its quality, and the 3-day shaking of the building earned itself a nickname Swaying Sage. In June 2009, a 13-story commercial building, which was still under construction, collapsed in Minhang District, Shanghai. The housing price of this building started from 14,000 to 16,000 USD per square meter. Even this expensive building still lay flat on the ground, becoming most famous Shanghai fragile building. China's Anhui residents accidentally stepped through the floor with the whole leg into the hole, appearing at downstairs neighbor's ceiling. China's Tofu Dreg projects are not only famous domestically, but also overseas. In 2018, China has lent Ecuador 19.1 billion to build 6 hydroelectric dams, but less than 2 years after they were put into service, thousands of cracks appeared in the dams, leaving the entire country on edge. Several government officials and even Ecuador's vice president have been jailed as a result. In 2017, a Chinese-built bridge in Kenya collapsed just before completion, resulting in dozens of casualties. In 2009, a chimney collapsed in a Chinese contracted power plant project in India, killing at least 26 people. The above shows only some of the China's Tofu Dreg projects. Commentator Hui Hu said, "Why are the houses in China short-lived? that in China, urban constructions has evolved into government image project, a tool for GDP growth, and a tool for profit-seeking interest groups. The article quoted Ling Jingyi, who has been in charge of the construction unit for many years, stating that commercial houses are all Tofu Dreg projects. All of them got cut corners. 1. The reinforcement bars are thin instead of thick. 2. The concrete strength is low instead of high. 3. The bricks are substandard. 4. Less thickness of the cast-in-place concrete slabs. 5. Low density of the reinforcement bars. 6. The depth of the pile foundation does not meet the requirements. Commercial houses are all Tofu Dreg projects. A netizen revealed that someone has already been in jail for investigating the Wenchuan Tofu Dreg project. The Chinese Communist Party only wants to cover up the truth. They blame nature for everything. When the disaster came, they only stirred up emotions and asked for donations from the public, but never held the official responsible for their failures after the disaster. After more than 2 decades, the number of Tofu Dreg project failures in China have not decreased. Rather, they have become more frequent and is the new normal nowadays.